Okay.
We're so back, season 4. Woo! Have
Merry
you missed us?
Christmas!
Oh yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry
We are your
Noonamas.
Christmas gifts. How have you been, Sophia? What has been going on? Fill us in. It's been 3 months since we've been face to face with our mandus.
Um, it's been a very intense 3 months, I'm not gonna lie. I'm almost done with my master's degree. I finished my second last semester, so just 4 more months to go.
Woo!
And what else? I've been watching quite a few K-dramas. I've been listening to a lot of music.
Wow, my 3 months have also been very intense. What is it? There's something in the air that night. Oh Lord. I ran my first half marathon. I ran my second half marathon. I have signed up to like get triathlon coaching. Like, who am I?
You also
Um,
did the Annapurna base camp.
no, that was when season 3 was still on.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just talking about the last 3 months. Now this is TMI. I don't date at all. Like, that's not my thing. I don't go on dates. But over the last like maybe 48 hours, I've been feeling it, and I can't tell if I want to date because it's cold or if I want it like emotionally. you know.
It's
Have you?
cuffing season.
I swear, I do need a big boy, I think. That's the only thing that can heat me up. I say that while wearing short sleeves. I started watching Mr. Plankton. I thought that
Oh,
was
you
that was
did?
interesting.
It's so on my list.
I feel like I didn't want to watch something with subtitles just yet. I wanted to just like have something as background noise.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had to take a pause with Mr. Plankton, but I will go back. But really exciting news. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
both of us weren't in town for this, but Chen, Bi, and Shumin all performed in India.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
they were
Who could have
insane.
thought that would have happened?
I know, like, if imagine telling 2013 like Zara and Sophia this.
Mm. Okay. The K-drama that I was super into was Queen of Tears. Like,
Oh,
I know it's a little dated now, but I was just like digging it up. And it was like forced tears, but it's okay.
yeah, no, emotional porn is the backbone of K dramas.
For sure. Tell us what you guys have been up to and what have you been watching? Like, I have all the time in the world now and I need to catch up on all the cool K-dramas. Let us know in the
Yeah, we
comments
need
what we should
recommendations so that I don't go out and date a man.
I mean, while we have been away, a lot of things have been going on in the wonderful world of K-pop. Notably, I mean, some things are like all the Blackpink members have had most of the Blackpink members have had their solo comebacks, which have been very cool. In fact, Rose has been like number one on the Billboard Hot 100 for a bunch of weeks as
Is it
well.
because she's the number one girl?
And Stray Kids recently came up with their new album. I know 80s also had a comeback. And Jin
Treasure also
has been
released something. I think One Us has done. Mark and Youngji have released a song, the collab of the year.
right
Like,
out of
honestly,
nowhere.
save Mark Lee 2020 was the hashtag. How is it 2024 and we still need to save him? Like, give him a break.
I don't think he wants one. But you know what we all really need a break from? The New Jeans, Minheejin, and hype drama. This is something that started like years ago. I think we also did one episode on it in the initial times. If you haven't checked it out yet, you should definitely check it out. But the way things have escalated and escalated and multiple times escalated, it's insane. And it's still not over. Like what?
Yeah, I think this has become such an absolute like snowball effect. Like, it started with one thing and it's
Mm.
just devolved so much. I'm sure you guys have read a lot about it, but just in case, here's like what has been happening as like a short refresher. It started in August, where August this year, like, so 5 months ago. Like, all of this is 5 months of
Wow.
information. Imagine. Min Hee-jin first said that she would step down as the CEO of Adore in August. Adore, if you remember, is like a sub company under Hybe, and they currently only have New Jeans. Okay.
Yeah.
Then in September, the all the members of New Jeans created their own YouTube channel, which was against company regulations apparently, and then did a live stream. Said Min Hee-jin should be reinstated, but
Hmm.
nothing really happened. In October, Min Hee-jin was reappointed as the internal director of the label. But a Korean court has denied her request to be made CEO again.
Hmm.
Now, maybe it's because I'm not a business girly, but like I feel like internal director and CEO mein itna kya difference hai?
There's a power, basically. How much power
Okay,
you have.
fair. But
As a
but
business
like really soon after,
girly.
like by the end of October only, after the court's ruling, and despite being reinstated as the internal director, Minhee was just like, I'm leaving altogether, and demanded that Hybe buy her out.
Mm.
Like she didn't leave with the company shares either. Then in November, New Jeans had sent a 14-day notice to Hybe saying reinstate her or terminate our contract,
I also
which,
want to interrupt this because in October, Hani also spoke at
oh right, the Senate.
the Senate, yeah, about like workplace harassment and how idols are treated badly, which gave us a very iconic meme of that, like, Hani was looking and that dude was looking at her, the old
Yeah,
man.
no, I remember. But yeah, then in November they sent the 14-day notice saying they need to will end their contract if Minheejin is not reinstated. By the end of November, as of recording, the end of November has passed by several weeks and nothing has happened. So then Eugene said, "Okay, that's it. We're ending our exclusive contract with Hybe and Adore." And
Hmm.
now Hybe, I believe, has sought like legal intervention to see whether or not their termination is possible. If somebody says we want to terminate our contract, I
Hmm.
believe as per Korean law, then the other contract signee, like if it's two bilateral contracts, and the other contract signee can't say yes or no. Like they have to go through a court process to see determine whether or not
Hmm.
it is possible or not.
Yeah, and according to sources, that takes about a year or two, so it's not something that can be resolved very quickly.
And they're also, I mean, I don't think really matters in the grand scheme of things, but they are going to come up with a new name for their group because New Jeans is property that belongs to Hype.
Yeah, and also they've opened up a new Instagram account called Jeans for Free. And very interestingly, in the live stream that they did, they talked about how they have unilaterally like ended their contract, but they will be continuing all their advertisements and all their promotions as usual,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
technically still like by Adore, which still is technically under Hype. And then I
Hype,
think
yeah.
and Honey or someone also posted a photo in the Hype practice room. So like, what?
Yeah, it feels all very convoluted. I think to go back, let's start from the beginning. I think that's the most important. I think Min Hee-jin's initial press conference was the meme of the year, where she showed up in the baseball cap and cried. And we said this in our previous video as well. Go check it out. I mean, obviously, it doesn't stand up because there's so much that has happened since. But I feel like I don't think she's the villain in this. Like, I think she's been villainized a lot by the media and by people on the internet. I don't know if she solely is the villain because I do think she's power hungry and ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
But I, I feel like if this was a man doing it, would we call him a villain?
Yes. But that is the question. Like, is Min Hee-jin the villain or not? Let's talk about like the good and the bad, maybe.
Okay, what do you think is the good and the bad?
I think what it comes across to me as that from Min Hee-jin's perspective, she is the creative director for Adore. She is the reason New Jeans is New Jeans. And like she created them, they've been really successful. And at some point, I think she wanted like ownership of this thing that she created because at the end of the day, she was just a CEO. Like she wasn't the owner, she was not Hype. And maybe she felt threatened, maybe she felt like she could be replaced, or whatever it was, which kind of started this whole thing. But it feels like there was definitely a plan to take the Adore and Eugene setup under Manheejin and just shift it to something else. And a lot of that has come out where Newjeans' own family have been investors in this. So it's not one-sided. I don't know. Like I have never like you can leave a company and start your own thing, but like I gave the example, can the person who created Google search leave Google and then say I want to own Google search? Like I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think two things can be true at the same time. I think she can be power hungry and also be a creative genius. Because let's be honest, New Jeans popped off not just because of their music and their talent, because there are a lot of very talented people out there, but it's because they were marketed so cleverly.
Mm,
But you can be very clever with your marketing, but you could not have the resources that Adore and Minheejin had if they weren't a part of Hype.
yeah.
So it's not like she worked absolutely independently and just came up with it on her own. Like, I'm giving her almost entirely all the credit when it comes to the creative aspect of it, but
Mhm.
none of it, the market, the actual physical pushing of sales
Mm,
and marketing of it, and having the resources to be able to get the Kurasami flower and to create the Powerpuff Girls look, all of that could not have happened without Hype's backing of money.
yeah. And I think to add to that, not just those, but the fact that a lot of New Jeans trainees were initially source music trainees. So the story goes that initially they were all source music trainees. And as we now know, source music is the Le Seraphim sub label. And Minheejin was appointed to be the creative director of that, but she wanted more ownership, so she wanted her own sub label instead of just working for Source Music. And when she got her own sub label, she pulled the trainees that she liked. So I
Hmm.
mean, it's all business. I don't think there's necessarily like an evil or a good thing attached to it, but I think what that created, and maybe this speaks to a greater thing of like, is rivalry to that extent healthy? Because then we also know that Menhejan did do a lot of defamation for like other groups, like Elite received the
Hmm.
most of the backlash. The Seraphim, like K-pop does have a history of companies kind of using defamation
Defame,
against
yeah.
yeah, but it's like I know eventually Belift ended up suing Menhejan for defamation, which was in May. So yeah, it happened a
Hmm.
while ago. But all of those things kind of create a more negative impact. And to me, I don't necessarily think Manijin is like a bad person, but I do feel like she is someone who really believes in the court of public opinion and wants to pull and push that. And I feel like new genes are also being pushed to do that, which I'm
That's a
not
really
sure
good point. No,
how
that's
I
a
feel.
really good point. I absolutely agree that new genes are being pushed and pulled and being controlled. Not control is not the right word, but they're being fed misinformation, because this entire thing, that press conference that they had in November saying that we are unilaterally terminating our contract, was, there's this scene in The Office where Michael Scott has to declare bankruptcy, and he walks into the room and he says, "I declare bankruptcy," and they're like, "You can't just say it and it happens." And he says, "I didn't just say it, I declared it." And they're like, "No, there's legal process." And that's exactly what I feel with New Jeans. I don't think they understand,
Hmm.
because they even said something along the lines of how they are happy because they've given back to the company more money than they owed, which, I am not gonna lie, I find very hard to believe. I
Really?
find that very hard to believe. Like, if we were to look at, because as per reports, I
Mhm.
have no knowledge beyond reports, but they have signed a very standard 7-year exclusive contract with Hype.
Mhm.
Now, given that is the case, companies funnel money in, like, K-pop
Mhm.
companies, and not just K-pop, East Asia companies, how they run as agencies, they funnel money into trainees for years. The
Mhm.
trainees are fed, they are housed, they are clothed, they have medical insurance, they are trained. All of
Mhm.
this money is a lot. And I mean, it is a very capitalistic industry, so it's not like they say, "Oh, your rent was $300, so you owe us $300." It's not like that. It is $300, and so they inflate it and they say you owe us $500. So they, for years, all of this accumulates and it becomes a massive amount. And
Mhm.
a lot of groups, after debuting, don't turn profitable for several years,
Yeah.
which is why they have to do brand deals, which is why they have to go out and do individual, I mean, modeling or whatever it is, to compensate for that and become profitable faster. New Jeans just haven't been around that long, and despite how much success and
Hmm.
sales they've done, they've not gone on tour. Like that is one of the biggest ways to make money.
That's true.
And like when they do make money, it immediately goes back into the company to then further market them. Like
Hmm.
the cycle continues. To make profit takes a long time, which is why if you look at even really big idols like Baekhyun, Lisa, they've all gone off much later. I mean, I'm assuming that they had fairly standard contracts as well, but they went off much later, created their own labels so that they could make a bigger cut of the money first,
Hmm.
and B, because they couldn't get out of their contract because they owe the company so much money.
Okay, true, but okay,
Okay.
I'm not saying like made up the money. I agree, like definitely, but I feel like if anybody could have potentially made up the money, it is NewJeans because if you look at their brand collaborations, like since day one, they entered with like not just luxury brands, but they've had an Apple collaboration. They had a Coca-Cola song which was like huge. They've done like SK Telecom. Like they've actually done brand deals which are more money making. They even had a Pink Fong collaboration. I don't think anything makes more money than Baby Shark. So
Yeah,
yeah, but
and
I
they
do
even had
agree.
the Pocky Stick collab. No, I
Yeah,
agree that they've done a lot, but a lot of groups do a lot and they don't make the money back because
it
of how
doesn't
much they've
happen.
spent. And now, and we have to remember that they were trained not under Big Hit, but they were trained under Source and Hype, who at this point do have a lot more money and have, I'm assuming, have kept their trainees in a better condition. Like I feel like we heard, I mean, as armies, we've heard Bangtan talk about how difficult their trainee life was because they just didn't have the money. But by the time,
Hmm.
like if you go back and watch trainee A vlogs or even listen to TXT, who've been around much longer, like they
TXT
don't
has
talk
some
about.
crazy trauma though.
Sure, I'm not saying that they don't have trauma because
Mm-mm.
it is still a very difficult thing to be a trainee. But like
Yeah,
the lack of, the fact like how Bangtan
resource.
were going to be kicked out of their house and told to go back home because the company couldn't afford their rent anymore. Like these sort
Hmm.
of things didn't happen with the newer groups because they had money. So we're going to assume that they were kept in better conditions, thereby meaning more money was spent on them.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely I think the thing is that the contract thing is a little complicated because at the end of
Hmm.
the day it is predatory in my opinion. Like it's the bond thing, like just because you as a child were signed off to a company who put in money into you doesn't mean you should like have to owe them. I mean, well, what can you do? That's the
Hmm.
capitalistic system. But it is like
That's why they go
predatory.
after children because children won't refute it.
Yeah, and the parents sign them off, and I think it's very hard for me to just like support and be like, yeah, of course they owe them money, so they need to stay with Hype. But to me,
Yeah,
the
of
biggest
course.
question and my biggest issue with all of this is that I don't disagree that idols get mistreated. I think everyone like knows there are like very big cases of idol mistreatment. Some of them are going right now, from like sexual harassment to like encouraging ED to just like awful, awful things in the
And like
entire,
the constant working, that's such
yeah,
a,
like work conditions in general. And I think that's probably just Korea. I
yeah,
don't
that
know.
is true.
But in this entire thing, I'm yet to see where was it that New Jeans were mistreated. Like, what apart from the
The
issue
fact that Min
between,
Hee Jin.
yeah, like between Minheejin and
Mm.
Hype, that's for me is separate. But like, what grounds does uh Nugents have to want to leave? Because to me, it just seems like that one incident that they really blew up, where the manager of some other group said don't talk to them. And while that sucks and that's petty, I'm just questioning like, is that it? Like someone was just
That's a
like,
really good point. That's a really good point. You're right. I feel like aside from them losing Min Hee Jin as their CEO,
hmm,
how were they mistreated is not something we have access to. However, I mean, I don't know if this counts. This absolutely, I feel like, is eh. But they have talked about how their managers and people who work with them are being harassed by Hype.
okay,
That doesn't directly speak to them being mistreated, but if, but, huh, you're right. Actually, if you, If somebody was mean to you, wouldn't you talk about it? If all of this is going on.
Hmm. Like, is
Hmm.
something like, what is it? What makes you want to leave? Also, to the hype being mistreating, some of it was that they seized the laptops and things off the people who were trying to
Hmm. Hmm.
send private information to other companies regarding Adore, which, I mean, I think a company is entitled to. Are we coming off as biased?
I don't know, because I feel like, on one hand, I don't want capitalism to win. I really
Hmm.
don't. I feel like these are very young girls with very promising careers ahead of them. That if they went off and did solo work, they could do really well. I do think that is possible. On the other hand, I feel like they're being very actively misled by somebody, like one person who may not have sexually groomed them, but I definitely think there is emotional grooming going on, which
And
I'm not saying
another
is exclusive to
capitalist, I may point out.
another capitalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't think this emotional grooming is exclusive to Minheejin and NewJeans. I'm sure this sort of like codependent relationship is fostered across a lot of different companies. I'm so confident in saying that.
Hmm.
No, I was just like, my concern is because it's going on to this thing, this whole like contract breakdown, and some parts I do agree with their statement where they said, even if nothing else, because we've lost trust in Hybe and Adore without Minheejin making us work with them for the next 5 years, 6 years. I don't know how. I think it's 5 or 6 years. It's
Hmm.
just it's never going to be right. And I agree. Honestly, I
Hmm.
agree. Once you've lost that sort of bond and connection, it'll be hard to continue doing that, and that feels mean. But on the other, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like I'm on New Jeans' side,
Hmm.
but I'm also like, there's just basic logic of law and everything, that how do you fight it?
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. It's like if you are in a job and you had a really great team and suddenly a really great boss got fired, maybe you wouldn't be as motivated to stay on this job. And then, but if you're in a job, you have the option to quit that job and then look for another job. I think
But I mean, sure, but like, if you are, say, the breadwinner of your family, and you're the one responsible for paying all the bills and घर की EMI, and you have to do car loans or whatnot, can you just leave your job, or do you have to stay there despite the fact that, like, your boss may not be the nicest? So you can't just quit up and leave. You have to stay and make sure that, like, all your bases are settled.
true, but you have the option of leaving. I think that is what like
Hmm.
lacks in a K-pop contract, where you don't, if you dislike your job, you should have, as a human, the freedom to leave. And that's kind of lacking here. But the other thing, and one of the biggest red flags I found, is Minheejin's involvement with NewJeans' parents. Like, again, not being
Mm.
anti Minheejin, go girl boss, but like the amount of times it's very like, this is what I have talked to their parents, and this has been a narrative since the beginning. And we talked about this in our previous episode as well, where and now we know that the parents are also financially investing in this, and I don't know. It all of it feels like NewJeans are just suffering.
I feel like NewJeans are being used as a pawn in Minheejin's ultimate game to become the CEO of her own agency.
And I think starting with Hype was the stepping stone for that, because getting all the resources, traction, everything. And we did find out that all of this was planned. Like, she was leaking information, shares were moving. There was like work going around for her to do this.
I think we are not exclusively the people who are supporting New Jeans while not agreeing with the either Hybe or Minheejin, honestly, because even the Producers Federation of Korea, I don't think that it's KEPA.
Mhm.
So I think maybe it's Korean Entertainer. I don't know. Anyway, they've also said that they've also like urged New Jeans to reconsider, because they're I don't agree, but they said it's irresponsible for them to do this. I don't think it's irresponsible, but I do agree that they've just not been informed. Like, they don't know the full details. I don't know if they have access to their contracts, if they have access to an independent lawyer who's not Minheejin supported,
Mm.
who can tell them the clauses, who can explain to them what they owe, what they don't owe, how it can like impact their futures.
Mm.
Blacklisting is a very common thing. so the society as a whole is very petty and very vengeful. So I don't know if anybody is talking to them aside from Minheejin.
And I think the other thing is, like, we had another big case like this with 50/50, where initially it was like their company's awful, blah, blah, blah. But then later on, we realized it was something similar where their producer was doing a side contract with Warner Brothers, and by suing a tract for like eliminating their contract, all the four girls wanted to move with the producer to Warner Brothers. So, like, that kind of made me made my distrust in just blindly supporting the artist as well, because while I do believe in freedom of movement, I think just there are actual cases of mistreatment, there are actual cases of people suffering under companies horribly, and I think that should not be the precedent that you use to like move around the same way.
What? Wait, no. What shouldn't be the precedent?
Like, you can't just say, oh, the company's mistreating me, and just because you want to move, because you use company resources to get to a certain
Hmm.
level, like 50/50. Who knew? Like, w- w- Cupid was a big hit, and
Yeah.
then suddenly they wanted to move. So it's something similar here, where New Jeans was what has been around for a year, and now it's just like, okay, bye, we want to start something new. But it's maybe the contract should be shorter. Maybe it's a 3-year contract instead of a
No,
7-year
I
contract.
absolutely agree about the contracts. I feel like the predatory nature of the contracts is that because they go after
Hmm.
extremely young children who very often like they're like this is my goal, this is my dream. And like when you offer a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old a contract, first of all, they're not paying attention. They are not going to pay attention. And even if their parents are, even if their families are, a lot of them, I think, I mean this, I'm happy to be wrong about this, but it feels like to me, if at 17 if I was offered a contract and if it was a 7-year long contract, somebody would just be like, okay, but by the time you're 24 you're done, and
Hmm.
24 is nothing, so you can just leave and do something else. Or I mean, it doesn't feel like that big amount of a time when you're that young. And it's not some like fundamental time or anything like that. It's just like, okay, yeah, at 24 you can just, when it ends, you go to university or you go find another job, you do whatever, because you'll have this experience. So
Hmm.
people don't realize the magnitude, and of course we will keep circling back to this, it's extremely capitalist. So a lot of times you don't even make your money.
Hmm.
Like whatever they've gone out and done these like really massive sponsorships and they've made impressive sales within their year, they I'm sure like they're seeing maybe 20% of it, and I'm being fairly generous, I think, when I'm saying
No,
that.
I mean, they are famously known to make, like, New Jeans are one of the few artists who have outwardly come out saying that they have made a significant chunk of their money. So since the
But we
beginning.
don't know, right? Like how much of that is their percentage versus how much is that, like a 20% of a million is a lot of money still.
Yeah, but then
So
the investment in them must be a lot more than even a million, right? So,
exactly, but that's what I mean. Like we don't know the exact terms of the contract, but I'm just
hmm,
like, this is what how K-pop industries and agencies, that's
exactly.
how they remain profitable. And actually, it's not just K-pop, even all music
All
industries, they
music.
take a big chunk of your money. The only thing is like other music, especially in the West, they don't invest in your training and your food and everything while you're a trainee, and even
Yeah.
afterwards. Actually, even after debut, it's not like suddenly you can move out and live your life.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, but that's the other part where it's like, what else would incentivize these companies to invest in the artists? So even if you look at a Western industry, fine, they don't have like year-based contracts, they have like album-based contracts. So you owe
Hmm.
a company 6 albums or whatever, and then they'll give you a ton of money for your promotions and everything. And then you release your album, you kind of have to make that money back. So you go on tour. So you are also kind of indebted in that constant cycle for your company, even if you're like a Western artist. Like Megan the Stallion famously had this very long issue with her label, but she couldn't leave until she finished the number of albums she owed them, and she ended up suing them
It-
and getting
so
out
many
of it.
people, Taylor Swift.
So it's like, at the end of the day, if if the contracts are 3 years long, would K-pop companies invest this much in their artists? Maybe not,
No, because
because
that's the same thing as investing in anything, right? Like if I was to go out and buy a house and then get a loan to get that house, then I want to own the house. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like you own the house for like 3 years, 7 years, and then you go back into the cycle, because you're putting in so much money, then it has to be
exactly.
worth it at the end. And I'm assuming the 7-year contract is like, I'm sure there's some math to back it up, where they've decided like, if this is how much we invest initially, this is how much we can potentially get back, and to get that back we might need 7 years to make that. Some people are lucky, they make that money back within 4 years, but that's what I mean. Again, it's 4 years. It's, you're thinking of 4 years, 5 years, not a year. I
Mm,
really doubt New Jeans has made their money back in a
in a
year.
year. Yeah. So,
Like, even, like, look at, I'm trying to think of like really big artists who have not left their group, because
mm,
despite being like, look at Blackpink stayed around for the entirety of their contract.
yeah.
EXO stayed around for the entirety of their contract. GOT7 stayed around with the entirety of their contract.
Yeah.
I mean, Mamamoo wasn't necessarily as successful, but they also, again, like, everyone stayed around, because it's, you just don't make that money.
Hmm. But if you're unhappy, and I think at the end of the day, it boils down to that. If New Jeans feel that they're not being treated right, and if their team is being ostracized and they're facing mental trauma,
Which I'm sure they are.
yeah. And now it's become such a big thing that I think staying in the company now is even worse, especially like
Hmm.
because of all the issues with the other labels and all of that. Like, I think it's so messy right now. Maybe the best thing for
For
them
them
would be
is to
just high would probably be to let them go and then just like ask for a percentage of their earnings for a stipulated amount of time, maybe the 7 years.
I still want them to do well. Like, I want them to go out and make more music, and if that is what they want, if they want to do something else, that's also fine. But I don't want this to become the, like, I don't want to get them blacklisted or anything like that. And I feel like, I maybe I'm an optimistic person. That's such a
Mhm.
strange sentence to have said out loud. But I feel like, if they were to get time away from Minheejin, and maybe have like an unbiased like legal arbiter, or some sort of mediation was to happen, I feel like maybe things could get better, and they could continue working in a door, and things could be fine. I do think that. I feel like they're all young enough. Like, yes, I mean, I'm so petty and I would hold a grudge, but like, if it meant that I could continue being a part of a group that's had insane success and continue doing that, I don't think I'd be against it.
My question is, like, through okay, this is controversial.
Ooh.
I don't think New Jeans are talented enough or have enough artistic acumen to exist outside of Manhattan. I think
Are you trying
what
to get
makes
us blacklisted?
New Jeans is Minheejin. It's her artistic direction, it's her song selection. I think yes, they're good dancers, but what makes their dance stand out is the style. What makes the music stand out is how it's like very unique to the music is made to their voices, and it's not like them just fitting in any sound and making them sing it, and all of it is done to enhance their skills. And I think that is someone who has years of experience, which she does, years of making NCTs and EXOs and Red Velvets. Like, she has been the creative force between all of these and very unique um ideas. And I don't know if the girls independently on their own, like, I'm not saying they're not, but I have not seen anything about them. I love their voices, but I don't know if, like, as artists, it's not just about your voice and it's not about your skills. It's the end result of the music and the product that you put out. And I don't know if anyone else can do that for them, that making it that unique.
So you don't think it, like, the creative process can be emulated by somebody else?
No, not
Oh.
this. Like, what makes New Jeans right now New Jeans is like they're
Hmm.
not Le Sserafim, they're not Elite.
Hmm.
They're very New Jeans. It's a very unique position they have in the industry, and I think that uniqueness comes from Minheejin as opposed to them.
No, fair. I don't think when I say some like any idol group or anybody is talented or anything, I just mean on their own like skill of vocal training or dance training.
Hmm.
Because obviously they don't have a hand in their marketing, especially at this stage. I mean, once you've been around for years and years and years, and then you prove yourself to be big enough, then you can be like, oh, I want my album to be marketed like this. And even then, there's like an entire panel of directors who decide whether or not they approve of your idea. So I
Hmm.
do agree, like it's not
Not
new
just
jeans to be
marketing, but
credited.
the art of it. Like, what is
I
their
know, I
artistic
understand what you
acumen?
mean.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean. The entire like product that we get at the end.
Hmm.
Um, I get what you mean. Because I'm not crediting New Jeans with that at all because I do agree it is Minheejin. I don't know if it can't be done by others though, because because her entire fight with Illit was that she's like, oh, they're copying New Jeans, and I don't see it. I don't.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't see it in the sound. I don't see it in the visual. But maybe she saw whatever she was doing was very similar. Like maybe the thought process was similar, maybe the ideology was very similar, maybe the concepts were similar. So it is happening in another group.
But that's imitation. That's not like you. I
Hmm.
never found Illit's entire thing to be something unique. Like New Jeans, do you remember when they came out? Like it was just like they
Yeah.
didn't even have a debut date. They just like showed up, and then ever since then, it's been so consistently unique. And I don't
Hmm.
see that in, I mean, I'm not saying other groups aren't unique. There are some groups that are really doing their own thing. It's like saying, is Stray Kids somebody else was doing Stray Kids? You would call it an imitation of Stray Kids. It wouldn't be like the unique thing that they're doing, you
Fair.
know?
I think I get what you mean. I don't know if I agree, but I do get what you mean. Like I feel like I do think, I do believe it is possible to continue, but maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe the magic is Minheejin, and without that, there is no magic.
Yeah, because M starts for magic and Manheejun. And
Oh,
like,
that was awful.
I know. And also, let's be honest, like creative people, like creative geniuses are batshit crazy. Like that's we've known that. That's a
Yeah.
thing. So like I agree, she's completely crazy and unhinged and like some level psychopathic and what's up with her shaman friend. But she's smart, like she's a genius.
Where
So you
South
know.
Asians were not allowed to look down on shaman friends. The big question. What do you think is the future of New Jeans? Not what you want to happen, because I feel like we've talked about that. But what do you
Hmm.
think is going to happen? Like, where do you see them in 6 months from now, or like a year from now?
I think there's gonna be a stalemate where they might like continue their brand stuff and the court case will keep going on because right now it's in Hype's benefit. Like even though they don't have like Minheejin, they have New Jeans, so whatever money they can make off it till it's, because I think eventually their contract will end up ending because like courts have historically in the past couple of years we've
Voted
seen
in
always
favor of the
supported the artist. Yeah,
idol.
so I do feel like they will eventually get to leave Hype, but what Hype might do is just like push it till it happens. And yeah, I think once they leave, they're gonna rekindle with Minheejin and be free jeans or something. Just jeans.
Yeah, they should go. They should just become denim or something. I think what's going to happen. I agree. I think that there is a stalemate. My question, and it's only because I just don't know legal framework in Korea. But if the contract is now going through the courts, does that mean that it pauses as it is? Does it mean that until the court decides, the contract continues as is? Because in
I think
that
that's what
case,
it is.
is it? Because then it makes sense that Hype will keep them around and they keep doing spawn con and albums of music. I'm assuming they have to as per the contract and continue working.
Hmm.
Or if it's paused, then they're stuck in limbo. They can't do anything. It's not like they can go out
Hmm.
and do something else on their own. They can't continue doing what they were doing, so they're not new jeans or free jeans. They're just like girls who
Jeans.
are stuck. Yeah.
They're
They're
denim in the
just,
laundry.
yeah, they're in the dry spin cycle. Like what's, like who knows? Like, so that's one of my big questions. Like, And like you said, these sort of contract things in the court can take up to years. Given how much there has been a public spectacle, I do imagine this might be faster, but who
Mm.
knows? Which is really, really disappointing. And again, just given how young these girls are,
Mm.
I do worry about like implications on not their career but themselves. Like that is my fear for them, and that which is why I'm like mad at Minheejin, because I just feel like you like she should have done her thing. Like she could have girl bossed all she wanted. I feel like she could have done that without putting this pressure for her fight to be fought by these young girls.
Mm. True. But maybe it teaches them that they can fight the system and win at a very young age, and also girl boss close to the sun themselves.
Maybe. I mean, if you think about like in past history precedents, like even NSYNC went after their manager and did win
Mm.
the court case, and that's why we have the iconic album "No Strings Attached" Bye 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 was because of that. So, like, it's not like it hasn't happened. It's just
Mm.
like that's a very different legal country, and this is a very different legal country. I think there are also things like misogyny at play,
Mhm.
not necessarily with New Jeans, but definitely with Minheejin. So I feel bad for them. Honestly, I just feel bad for New Jeans, and I feel
Hmm.
bad as a fan that I don't get more New Jeans in a very selfish way.
Yeah, true. But I mean, there's only one way we will find out, which is through time. And we want to know what you guys think. Like, what do you think will happen to New Jeans? What do you want to happen, and what do you think realistically will happen? And who's right? Is somebody right in this situation? Like, is Hype right? Is Minheejin right? Is New Jeans right? Or is this just a complicated mess of like business and contracts and
Yeah,
yeah, there are no winners. Somehow it feels like.
yeah. I think the only winner is capitalism.
Yeah. Also, Hype CEO also changed in between all of this. Like they got a female CEO, which definitely feels like a very PR forward
Move,
move.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know this. As a shareholder, I feel like I should have been informed. But I did not know this. Okay, that's yeah. That
Yeah.
see, this is what I mean. I feel like there's misogyny and like gender viewing at play, and again in a country like Korea where it is a thing.
Hmm.
I mean, everywhere it's a thing, but like there as well.
Yeah. And the other thing is like this another interesting tidbit is that they did have the shareholders meeting, and in that they kind of gave like the future projections without considering new genes. So they are kind of reassuring the shareholders that Hive will succeed regardless of this. So at some point, like obviously as a smart company you do have to plan both ways.
Not
But
just that, but I do think like honestly, I even if I wasn't like a fan of hype groups, I agree. They have so many groups under them. Like yes, New Jeans is amazing, but like they have 17. They have an team. They
no,
have
no,
an
I'm
hypen. They're
not
going
saying
to
like
the
I'm not saying they're gonna like drop, but they are just showing the future without new genes. So they're not considering new genes into their projected future, which if I was Hype man, I would be like pissed.
yeah, imagine I have spent money and like I'll be like ungrateful children turning around and being like तुमसे काम नहीं करना. Mad. I'd be really pressed.
Yeah.
And another like one of the things, not the producers federation, I think one of the other federations, music federation, I think, they did say like there's just no justifiable cause for you to have terminated the contract, and it's just going to reflect bad on you. And I was just like, I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
but I think you should have the choice to leave if you don't know. Like at the end of the day, I believe in freedom of people.
No, I believe in freedom as well, but freedom at what cost, right? Like, because it is about, like, for me, it's always about the money because I think they owe so much money. Not just they, but all K pop idols end up owing their companies so much money. And is your freedom worth being indebted to a company afterwards?
Hmm. But like the companies are also taking a risk, right? Like it could have happened that New Jeans could have just flopped max, and then
So they
even
have fail safe clauses for that. They have fail safe clauses for that where again, like the contracts are always written in favor of the company themselves. So
Hmm.
they, in terms of like disbandment or artist issues like health and illnesses and all of that, they themselves are protected against it, but there nobody's
Yeah.
looking for the protection of idols.
Idols. No, that's
Hey,
what
maybe
I'm
we
saying.
should
That it's
start
not
something like
like
that.
what?
I was like, maybe we should start something like that where we like look at contracts for K-pop idols and we tell them like, no, you should write a better contract.
Yeah,
Would
maybe
we have to go
idols
to law
should have a
school for that?
union.
Yeah, there should be. I mean, honestly, I'm so pro union. I'm such a unionizing girl. Okay, what? So we have given our thoughts. What are yours? Let us know in the comments below. We will be back to our regularly scheduled season 4. So many exciting things are coming up ahead in the year 2025. Happy New Year! Oh my God, you guys! Happy. I mean, I'm calling it Happy 2020 Thrive because this year we're thriving.
Oh.
So you can
Speak for
follow us on
yourself.
Instagram.
Some of us wanna not thrive and just rot.
That's your version of thriving. But yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at NoonaTalk, exactly like it sounds. We're also on Spotify, Apple Music. Oh, sorry, no, we're not on Apple Music. We're on Apple Podcast. And we will be back in 2 weeks. Till then, I was Zara.
And I was Sophia. Happy New Year.